Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of CISO Talk. I'm James Azar. I've got a very special episode today. 1 month in the making. All the planning, we measured 10 times, and we're getting ready to just cut once perfectly. I've got the awesome leadership of Cardinal Health joining me here in just a moment for what I'm calling the epic episode of 2021 in this summer. This is like, Fast and Furious, new movie coming out. This is like the Fast and Furious of cyber. Right here. This is like the dream team of cybersecurity professionals. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure to do so now. If you're not following us, make sure to do so right now. Because once I kick off this episode, you're going to want to do it, and I don't want you to miss out on any of it. So go ahead, hit subscribe right now, and we're going to be set and ready to go. So let's not waste any more time on today's promo and get right into the episode. It's CISO Talk time. Here we go.
From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're listening to the CISO Talk podcast. No sales, no bullshit, just straight talk. Straight talk. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, we're all here. I think all of us are here now. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Wow, look at all the wavy hands. That's awesome. Awesome. So I've got the awesome ladies of Cardinal Health leading off with Lori and a familiar face joining us again on the show, Britney. I had Britney on for Veteran November. Samara, did I say that right?
You did. Well done.
I've been practicing, literally. And Jana Moore. So Lori, I'll allow you to introduce the ladies that are on your team and kind of a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. So I am really excited to be here today and talk about our team and our outreach into the community too. So thanks for having us, James. Introducing our team, we've got Samara from our cyber threat operations team, Britney from our cyber operations team, and Jana Moore from our BISO team and security awareness team. So as far as my background, James, I can dig into that a little bit. I came into the security space about 5 years ago. I had been a traditional IT person. I would say IT generalist. I had done all sorts of different IT roles and application development, enterprise architecture, infrastructure. And then this role was open here at Cardinal, and I've been at Cardinal about 20 years at that point in time, and was encouraged to give it a try, even though I didn't have a background in security. And what I learned was all of that background in IT really has helped me out, lead our security team. So it's been a great, great journey.
Yeah, I love the stories of people kind of coming into cyber. I've heard Britney's, and we'll bring up Jana and Samara's as well. For those who don't know, I had Britney on. Lori was kind enough in October to say, hey, you should really have Britney on your Veteran November series, and I did, and it was great. And so you've always been just so like, you should talk to this person and you should be with this person. And your community outreach with me is just unbelievable. So nonetheless, I expect that you would do the same with your team. Talk a little bit about your community outreach, because you guys are really out there promoting security and trying to really break down barriers. Talk a little bit about that. And the team, and anyone can jump in anytime they want. This is a fun discussion.
Yeah, so a few things coming into this role. It was different. IT doesn't do as much outreach as security, and I loved it. It felt finally like I'd found a home, because I don't want to do my job in a vacuum. When you get into security, you learn you have to have that collaboration and outreach to the community, or you're not going to succeed. That's just part of the job. So I really have enjoyed that. We've got a really strong community here in Central Ohio. We actually just had our Central Ohio security conference last week. I've lost track. Yeah. Yes. And so had great engagement there. We have something called Covail here in town, which was actually a company formed by companies here in Columbus to really feed talent, feed innovations. That's another area of collaboration. And then healthcare, which, as you know, the maturity level in healthcare is all over the place. We've got some really mature players and then some areas that really need help. And so it's great to collaborate with our healthcare peers too.
Yeah, healthcare is one industry that over the last 15, 16 months has gotten a lot of attention for all the right reasons, because I don't think would be where we are today after a global pandemic. I mean, what are we, 13, 14 months later and 15 months maybe? I don't know exact time. So any of you can feel free to correct me. Some people argue January. I argue March, first lockdown. But, you know, let's say even if it's 15 months, I'm in Israel right now, and I can tell you we have zero limitations in Israel. People are maskless everywhere. We're out and about. Beaches are open. I'm going to a wedding in an hour and with like 1,000 people. So like things are back to normal. And I don't think that would be the case if it wasn't for, you know, people like your team in healthcare helping defend against a lot of threat actors that were trying to slow down and really profit off of a pandemic.
Yes. Yeah. Criminals love a crisis. And we definitely saw an increase in activity like everybody in healthcare. And this team really stepped up. I was so proud. You know, we made the decision, like a lot of companies, to start working from home in about a week. And we just changed our way of working to adapt to that. And the team really stood up to the challenge and really, quite honestly, took it so seriously because we felt that responsibility being in healthcare and being in the center of it all, that we had to deliver, period. So it's been quite a year. I've been humbled by all the great work that the team's done, for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about awareness. And I know that Jana leads that kind of overall effort for you guys. Jana, when you look at kind of like cyber awareness within the community, not only within the organization, right, and the supply chain and the vendor, and I think people underestimate the role of a BISO, but my good friend Patrick Benoit at a CBRE, he's been able to elevate the role of the BISO. Talk a little bit about your community outreach, and I told you the light would fall, and lo and behold, it did, right? So,
There it was.
Blooper reel.
There it is. A blooper reel. Light was going to come down. I knew it was going to come down. I saw it coming. It happened. But let us not get distracted by a light, and let us have so Jana, talk a little bit about your outreach efforts and some of the things you're doing as a BISO to really enhance security awareness across the organization.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a big topic because, you know, even outside of having a pandemic, trying to introduce a role like the BISO at a company like ours, and then trying to elevate kind of that security awareness aspect to it. I mean, there's a lot there to unpack, to understand about your organization, to kind of tailor your kind of your approach, tailoring that to what the organization needs. I mean, there's all these factors you have to take into consideration when you're approaching this, and security awareness is absolutely part of that. And so I think, you know, when you talk about community outreach and you're sharing kind of what your approach is at your company with others, hearing what's working for them, how are they getting through the pandemic, for example, and reaching all of the employees and making sure that we're all getting the right message, the right information out. So it's really all about kind of being flexible, being able to adjust and adapt and pivot when you need to. And making sure that you're hearing what the organization is asking from us so that we can get their answers, you know, get answers out to that particular group, out to the broader audience, and then also bring back those concerns to the security organization too, you know, to Lori and my peers, and just talk through, here's what they're talking about. Here's what's on top of their mind. Here are the questions that we're hearing out in the business so that we can be sensitive to those things. So I think, like I said earlier, it's a big topic to kind of unpack. And so I think that already having a really good foundation and base with the community personally, and then as I'm spreading that out with my team, I think has really helped. And so it's knowing who you can lean on, who you have in your network that you can reach out to, how do you start to formulate a plan on how to approach the situation? And then over the last year with the BISO organization, I've been on this like hiring spree, trying to staff it throughout the globe and be there local in the regions with our business units that are international. And so it's that onboarding and making sure that they're understanding our business needs in that region and how can they become the best partner to them based on what's occurring in that section of our business. So there's a lot going on between the BISO side of my team and the security awareness side of my team. And then layer on the pandemic on top of that. It's just been a really interesting year for us, for sure.
Yeah, so you brought up a very interesting, I think, comment, which is trying to hire in this last, year, trying to hire on a global level, which is very, very challenging for so many people because, one of the biggest, I want to say, challenges, something that I'm very, vocal about is the idea of how do we get more people involved in security. Lori's got a very interesting background. She comes from IT. What's your background? How did you get into security, Jana?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, if we rewind the real kind of way back, I was gonna go into psychology to begin with. I wanted to work for large organizations, probably in their HR department and doing organizational kind of change management type things. And it was back then that I got my first IT job. And so I was working my way through school. And so while I was going to school for this, my day job was IT. And that's when I really was kind of, shown that world of, hey, this could be a career opportunity, and made the decision to pursue it a little bit to see how that worked out for me. And it worked out really well. So I spent my first probably 15 years in IT doing network security, network engineering, platform engineering, server engineering, all the different disciplines around IT. And so what that set me up for is back around 2011, 2012 is when I made the jump to direct information security, because I felt like I had a really good foundation. Like Lori was saying, it kind of gives you that really good background of understanding the different areas of IT, and therefore understanding how to secure those things almost came naturally. It was that natural progression to kind of take it to that next level. And so that's when I went after the role in information security and where I've been since then.
So being in your current role now, you kind of, coming from also an IT background, one of the biggest challenges we have in security is the diversity of thought, right? We seem to always want to bring people with a specific background or a specific set of skills. How have you overcome that over the last year? What are some of the things that you're doing within the community to really kind of bring that out? And any one of you can answer this question, by the way, so feel free to pitch in here.
Yeah, I mean, from a hiring standpoint, honestly, I have found the best talent through my network, and I never would have found them otherwise, because through the recruiting processes, you have these processes in place to kind of, because the volume of resumes that you see that come through your talent management teams, to their defense, they can't spend time with every single one. So they have to kind of weed them out, right? And that's where we're losing some really interesting talent, is through that weed out process. So a couple things that I did is, number one, leverage my network and word of mouth. Okay, who do you know? Who may I not, I may not know them today, but who can you hook me up with? But then also developing a better relationship with your recruiting team and telling them, I want to see, X, Y, and Z. Don't weed out these people. If you see this come across, put them my way, because I want to at least have that first pass at them. And that way you can kind of develop, you can almost train them in a way to look for those intangibles. Maybe they look great on paper, but, here's some other things that we're looking to kind of diversify the team with. So it's kind of, a couple of things that I've done. I don't know if Britney or Samara, you want to chime in on that?
I'm going to throw Samara on this one. She has done a fantastic job of recruiting people. You mentioned kind of like odd backgrounds. I can tell you we've had someone pulled in from financial risk, and one of our newer ladies was an online poker player professionally. So I know, right? So I'm going to toss it to Samara, because she's been doing some amazing things as she's been kind of building out her team in the last couple of months.
Yeah, thank you. So I was going to jump on this too. So I appreciate that shout out, Brittany. But I take a little bit of a different approach than Jana does. I could definitely do better about working with my recruiting team, but and this could be because I'm a little bit of a control freak too. But I ask for all the resumes. I ask for all of them, and they're like, okay, it's a lot, right? Vulnerability management, threat intelligence, they're very attractive roles for people. So I do get a lot. But it gives me the opportunity to literally look at each one, see which one is good for my team. But then also I send them to Jason. I send them to Kevin Russo on application security, incident response, purple team. So that's my way of recruiting for my team and then helping other people out as well, since the recruiters don't know the spaces as well. I have found great success on Twitter as well. So I think recently, shout out to Alyssa Miller. We did share the mic in cyber. I don't know if you all are familiar with that. So that's like a Twitter campaign and a LinkedIn campaign where you highlight African-American cybersecurity professionals. And I was a part of that. I've been a part of it twice. So that helped me build my network across the globe. And Alyssa Miller told me, you need to get on Twitter. You have to get on Twitter. Twitter is the place. There's an entire information security ecosystem, and it's people of all levels, all extremely accepting. You know, I could put on there, literally, I had French toast and strawberries this morning for breakfast, and people are like, that's awesome. You know, it doesn't always have to be so formal. And I've reached out to people have reached out to me, and I've made those meaningful connections with people prior to recruiting them to a role. So it's made that transition process a lot easier. And it also helps me to understand, what am I missing on my team? I see this in this person. They may not have the most cybersecurity knowledge, but they have a skill set that I can add to my team. They're a part of a culture that I can add to my team. And so far, we've seen a lot of really good success. So, because I'm at 10 people now on the team. So yeah, I started at 6 months ago. So
that's brilliant. I want to tell you something I've done as a CISO is, instead of cover letters, I ask for a 1-minute video of every candidate.
That's interesting.
And I've had some really creative people that we've onboarded and that have just done some really creative videos, and that we've brought in for interns or apprenticeships or even, mid-management roles. I had one guy who did a 1-minute video who had nothing to do with security, spent 20 years in business, but his 1-minute video was good enough to where on paper would have probably rejected him. But we're like, we're going to bring this guy in. He's got some intangibles we could really use on our team. And now he's running our GRC team. So like for me, the 1-minute video has been unbelievable, because guess what we've all done for 15 months? Exactly what we're doing right now. We're all on video all day long.
So Jane, I think that's a really good idea. I think with a lot of the HR restrictions, it becomes very difficult to get to know that person. You go overseas, right? You can ask all kinds of things, but in the US, you can't, right? So I've really tried to push my team. They say like the top 8% of your candidates can do the job. They're all going to function about the same. So once you get to that top percentage, you have to start asking yourself, what are they adding to the team? What new intangibles do they have that they can bring to the group that your team doesn't currently have? And sometimes it's a really hard question to answer if you can't ask, right? So maybe that 1-minute video is a great opportunity. Maybe getting to know people out there in your network, in the Twitterverse, is a good way to start to understand like how they look at different things, or what their background is, or how do they problem solve. A lot of those things you're not going to be able to get in your interview because you don't know them personally. And it's very hard to pull that out.
Yeah, it's to me, that's the most difficult thing that I've seen is some people have a very hard time expressing themselves on paper, but have a wonderful time showcasing their personality and their culture and their character in 60 seconds. And think about that. We say most impressions are done in the first few seconds of our interaction with a human being. So to me, 1 minute is just unbelievable. And Brittany, since I've got you center stage, let me ask you a question here, since you've volunteered to come up here.
Fine.
You know, you were one of the first remote people that Lori's brought on that was not in Ohio.
Yes.
So, and now Lori's like, I hire people all over the world. I don't care where you are anymore. You don't have to be in Ohio. So how has your outreach really changed? Because, you know, we've talked a little bit about the local stuff, but you're kind of like the first remote person in Lori's team that's really leading things through. So what's that been like for you?
You know, it's been interesting. So here in Kansas City, we have some great groups. Our IC Squared group is really strong, which is more the management perspective. We have more of a hacker group called SecKC. I founded the Women in Security here in Kansas City. So my network here was pretty strong. As I've come onto the Cardinal team, I've honestly got to know a lot of people through these ladies as well. They're very involved in the community. They're going and reaching out to various groups. And through that, I've been able to make contacts that's kind of furthered my network. And it's been really great. Even being able to connect people in Ohio to people in Kansas City that otherwise they would have never met, right? But they can still bounce those ideas, and what they're doing in the community here, they can do in the community there. And I think that's really important. And you start to create bonds, share your network, and grow both of the communities, because I haven't gotten to personally be there yet in Columbus, but it seems like the Columbus community is very similar to what we have in Kansas City. And just being able to have different groups compare and contrast notes on how you're doing this, or how you're looking at that, or how you're getting people in, how you're engaging during the pandemic. All that's changed, right? And it's been really nice to see all these different groups kind of come together and build off of one another.
So that kind of brings up a very interesting point, which is, over the last 15 months, I think one of our Achilles heels as practitioners is our communication, right? Our communication's been pretty, shall I say, challenging between each other, where we don't often communicate well with each other to help each other, because security is a team sport. I like to say that none of us are in competition over who's more secure. I think we're all in kind of the same thing, as we probably all use similar vendors and similar technologies and implement them. And at the end of the day, if one's vulnerable, we're all vulnerable, right? It's very much a uniting factor rather than a competing one. What are some of the things that you guys think, and all you ladies think, we can do to really bridge that communication gap? And maybe, you know, we'll start off with Lori and kind of go down each of you on this one.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I personally, and I'm sure the rest of my friends here have the same thing, I have felt completely overloaded by communication, but not necessarily great communication. Right?
Yeah.
Zoom call after Zoom call after Zoom call and a million emails does not get the job done. So I think we have to relook at how we're doing that, and make it very purpose-based, not just to have a meeting. And I know obviously the vendors out there have a job to do. They need to sell their stuff, but the overload from them too is been pretty intense. So I think those really valuable conversations are important, and I'm not going to call out any of the that host collaborations, but there's some that do it so well and some that do it really poorly. And it's got to be facilitated discussion. It's really hard for 50 people to get on a Zoom call and have a good discussion. So there has to be someone that's kind of driving the discussion, calling people out, planning beforehand, have people contribute. And I'm not talking about the conferences. That's a whole nother ball game. I'm just saying, when you get a bunch of CISOs together, it can be done very well. And there's a lot of value and a lot of aha moments, or it could be a lot of time and not done that well. And so I'd encourage the folks out there that are on point for those, that they're thinking through that, because time is just, it always was not enough of it, but I would say the past year, it feels like we're stretched too thin and not talking about the right things. So that's my 2 cents on it. And like I said, there's some folks that are doing it super well, but others that have a long way to go.
Yeah, I want to kind of open this up to all three of you as well, Britney, Samara, and Jana. Like, what are some of the things that we need to improve as a community and communication to really kind of cut through the noise and be able to really support one another? Because one great thing that came out of COVID, I think, is the CTI League, right? And my good buddy Ohad, who I'll be buying beer for in a little while, and the work that the CTI League has done has been unbelievable, and kind of the global community force that came behind it. But they're kind of like a group of people that have come in to help. But we, Laura, you and I as CISOs, and Britney and Samara and Janice practitioners, we don't. I feel like if you're not in the same room at the same time, we don't communicate as effectively. And we know that threat actors, Samara brought it up. She goes, threat intel. Britney does threat intel. You look at threat intel, if you just look at how our adversaries communicate, I'm jealous. Like, I want to be in that gang just because of how well they communicate.
I know. I think it's funny because when I think about this question, you can almost look at it a couple ways. It's like, sure, the outwardly, like communication with your community and others in the industry, and how are we sharing that information back and forth, but then also just looking right at home, like within your own organization, that communication is even difficult over the last 15 months because of what we're all going through. So how do we just internally continue to have the right dialogue, timely, we're sharing the right information, we're keeping each other in the loop. I mean, I think it comes up, pretty regularly that we need to do a better job communicating internally. But externally, I think, one thing that I think about, especially as it relates to the business and the role that I have today with working more closely with the business, is because of all of the different security kind of regulations that are coming out that are very different from each other, in the kind of that stress and overhead that it's bringing to the group of practitioners like us who have to then adhere to those and kind of almost like decipher the code and figure out, okay, what's like the minimum baseline we got to be at to at least satisfy all of them, right, without going overboard. And I think right now as an industry, we're not doing a great job of communicating across all of those different governing bodies to get one thought together where we're all saying, okay, this is going to present a huge problem for everyone. Let's start to have those right, like to Lori's point, we're not having the right conversations yet. And so I think in pockets, you're hearing more and more about it, but just kind of seeing it coming at us, you have that looming kind of, okay, how are we going to tackle this one? It's really going to be problematic, honestly.
Yeah, I will say that Lori and I are on the NTSC, the National Technology Security Coalition, with Patrick Gall, and we're kind of trying to get things a little straightened out in DC. But then again, I said the key word there, DC. So I'll kick it back to Britney, or I know you unmuted. So Britney, I'd love to hear what you have to say on this.
Sure. So first, for the vendors, just send me wine. That's number one. And then we will get on. We will have a great conversation, and we will be friends. For my peers, like, we have established just a real lockdown Slack channel. And so anytime one of us hears something or sees something, we throw it up there. And it's very interesting to see, like, all these different industries, particularly the legal industry, come back with rulings on how people decided who was at fault and those types of things. So I think just creating that community and being able to have a safe space is nice. Internally, I've tried to do a few things within our team. We have a lot of tough conversations that Samara could probably tell you about. But also on Fridays, we started what we call Cube Time. And it's pretty much beginning Friday morning till after lunch. It's just an open Teams channel, and people jump in and out all day and talk, usually not about work, but kind of to mimic that office feel, right? Because a lot of my team won't be back in the office. A lot of my team is remote. now. And so being able just to chit chat and talk about all the things, I can tell you, I have learned about a new tax deduction that I'm totally going to take advantage of next year. But there's certainly an opportunity to kind of create a bond and a relationship, but I think you have to be very intentional about how you do that.
Yes. Samara, what's your take?
Yeah, well, I'd appreciate it if my boss didn't take all the words that I wanted to use. Safe space, intentional, comfort. So I wanted to touch on like a little bit more personal side, because I am extremely intentional about understanding the people that work with me, not for me. I think there's a lot of work to be done on the front end with communication when it comes to building rapport, right? When you can come to a meeting and feel comfortable with somebody, I think you can knock things out left and right, and it's a productive meeting. Britney and I have our one-on-ones, they're like 30 minutes, and we talk about like everything. I don't know how we do it sometimes, but like talking over each other sometimes, and we can hear one another. So I think that's a big part of it. Yeah, it's building that rapport and the trust. Again, she took half my words,
So yeah, Britney has a tendency to do that.
Yeah, she's the worst.
I'll tell you something very interesting that I've done, and it could be very useful. I do 10-minute one-on-ones with everyone on my team once a week, and we do them, and I call them plank sessions. So however long you can, we don't really plank. I mean, I wish we did. I'd be like 15 pounds lighter. I'd be all muscled up. I did the Mission 22 challenge this week for Memorial Day, and I am still sore from practicing to do 22 push-ups on camera. So I don't look like a little, like I can't do 22 push-ups.
I was visualizing walking off a plank for some reason.
No, I was thinking about the fad. Remember where people would like lay flat?
I was
right.
Not like an exercise.
Yeah, that was a thing when The Office was a show, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
But to me, we do these plank meetings because you can get out what you want to say in that very little of a time.
Yeah.
And those have been very, very effective from a remote leadership perspective, because my entire team is remote, right? I mean, I think I've got a handful of people that live in Georgia where I am, and everyone else is all over the globe in different time zones. And I've now realized that being in Israel, I'm very central time zone. Now, I don't want my wife to ever hear that, because she's going to be like, let's move back to Israel. But, it's unbelievable, because I can speak to my Asian team in the morning and it's their end of day, right? And I can speak to the US team here towards the end of my day, and I can speak to Europeans around the same time, and I'm comfortable. Like, I'm not working weird hours. My work-life balance has been very, very different. And, I think that's a big thing also, is like mental health. And now, especially with, I don't want to say the new normal, back to normal, right? Because things are going back to normal. At least I'm seeing it that way, right? Kind of like the back to normal, but the back to normal also involves the way we work. That's very different now. Like Britney said, none of her team's going to be in the office. And and cybersecurity is a very challenging role, and it's a very high stress job. And not, kind of, what are some of your tips to kind of watching mental health, kind of, and giving people time off, and recognizing when someone's overworked because they're logged in for 18 hours and they're hawkish on their keyboard, and while we all love those people, at the same time they burn out quick if we let them do that.
Everybody came off mute real quick.
I know we all have an opinion on this one.
Well, I love opinions, so go for it. Every single one of you can go.
I'll start. I mean, like this for me, we've keeping an eye on my employees, because they are global, they're all international, most of them, and being on Zoom and having the camera on is so key, and like seeing their reactions and kind of seeing their appearance and how are they responding. Are they nodding along? And just looking for those cues and kind of keeping a pulse on how they're acting, and is that their normal behavior? And you can see it. I mean, like, especially with my team being so new to Cardinal, the hiring spree that I was on, we're all getting to know each other over this past year. And then we're all getting to know kind of our natural tendencies and how we act. now we're starting to pick up really well on those cues of, hey, they're not acting right, something's going on. And really towards the end of this now, I mean, endurance, like we've all had some pretty serious endurance. It's starting to wear thin. Like I can see it, you know, we're for us, we're winding down our fiscal year right now. Everybody's wore out. We got to start all over again in July, you know, so we're just trying to find that last minute energy to push us through. So for like mental health and wellness, I mean, it's all about, number one, letting them know what support they have to them through the company, number one, because we actually have some really good things through Cardinal that can help with mental health support. We have subscriptions to some really cool apps that we use, Headspace and Calm, which are really good ones. I actually use those personally anyway. And then my company sponsors them through being an employee. So that is an added benefit. But people, if they don't know that they're there for them, they don't know how to take advantage of it. So it's just making sure that they know what's available and then just checking in. How are we doing today? Scale of 1 to 10. What's your number? You know, like how are you feeling? You know, who's taking vacation? There's a long weekend coming up. Are you going to take some time off with that? You know, and just kind of making sure that I'm respecting their boundaries as their leader, as their manager, is like, hey, I don't want to be filling their personal time with stuff that can wait till the next day, right? You know, let me respect their boundaries too, you know, and just kind of we'll catch up when we catch up type thing. So there's a lot of different approaches, but that's for me just some of the things that come to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pitch this to Samara so Britney doesn't steal her words this time.
This is a good idea.
Bless you, sir. Because I literally wrote down almost an agenda of things in case she took some, so that I could have other things to talk about. Okay, so first, anybody that knows me knows I'm super just open. I put it all out there, and I think that helps to kind of make people feel like they can be vulnerable with me. You know, like I said, I'm super intentional about knowing the people that work for me. So, and I'm also very open to sharing anything about my life, my past, what I'm going through now, what I'll probably go through in the future. Like the other day, I scheduled my first therapy appointment. I am excited. I've done a lot of work in the last 2 years on my own, but now I need help. And I told my team that, right? So when they're feeling a certain kind of way, they feel like they can come to me, and so far they have, right? So I'm seeing a lot of success there, and also leading by example when it comes to not working late, letting things, you know, wait till the next day if they can, and then also super direct with them too. Like if I see somebody working late, I'm like, get off of the computer right now, get out of here. Go spend time with, you know, whoever, your loved ones. So hopefully I stole some of Britney's words.
You did. Congratulations. So Jana got it with being intentional about like not sending. So mine will be like not sending emails after hours because I don't want them to think that they have to respond. And then to Samara's point, just making sure that you are being open with your team. You're having those honest conversations. But I have another one that I do. So I had to level set a little bit, level set my team, because I will press that video call button. Just do it. Like that's just what I do. That's my go-to. I'm not sending you an email. I'm not sending you a message on Teams probably. If I just got something to say, I'm going to hit the video button. And so as each new person has come into the team, I had this conversation about like, I am going to call you on the video call. If you are not at your desk, that's fine. If you had to walk around the block, if you had to use the bathroom, if you had to take like a personal minute, that's fine. Also, if you're in the middle of like having a deep thought, it is fine to hang up on me. I am generally just calling you to like BS about something. If it's important, I will message you and I will get in touch with you, but don't feel like you have to be tethered to your desk all the time. Like I want them to feel like they can, if they need a minute to walk around the block, they walk around the block, right? If they need a minute to just have some personal time, like and shake it out, especially in the IR function, do that, shake it out, and come back. I will get in touch with you, but it's not, I don't want them to think, oh crap, the boss is calling. I need to jump in and like hurdle the couch and get there and, freak out. So I didn't prep my team initially when I did this. And then I realized people were freaking out. So I had to go back and make sure that like I level set and said, I am not trying to hunt you down. I am not trying to check on you. I am not trying to make your life difficult. I'm just popping in to say hi because I got some things to say.
Lori?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. I think shadow of a leader. I've gone on vacation. I just went on vacation 2 weeks ago and want to make sure everybody knew that, right? Because we've got to get back to some normal life for sure. I think that's one thing. The company has done a really nice job. Jana mentioned some of it. Like we're doing every Wednesday from 3 to 5 is midweek moment, no meetings for the entire company, right?
So that's today.
Yeah, it is. This afternoon from 3 to 5. I would say now we're at the point that some folks are going to start going back to the office throughout the summer into the fall. I'm hesitant there. How do we manage both now with some folks full-time remote, some folks going in a couple days, some folks there full-time? I'm trying to wrap my mind around how do we make that work for everybody, because that is much different than where we were. And I want to make sure it's a great experience for everyone. And I'll be honest, when I go to think sometimes, that's what I'm thinking about. How do we really make sure that everyone gets to that new normal in one piece, feels engaged, feels part of the team? Obviously, Britney will be a great sounding board as part of the leadership team. But that's something that I don't want everyone to go in and just look at Zoom calls all day, right? If they're going to go in the office, what's the benefit for them? So we're working through that as a leadership team, but that's one of the things I think is important. The rest of the mental health space, it hasn't just been a pandemic, right? We've had racial injustice, we've had natural disasters. There's so many things that have happened that I, as the leader of the team, take some head on and gets the team talking. I think that's my job. Our company's pretty leading edge on that too. So it's been interesting. I would say I have been stretched more than I ever have as a leader this past year.
I mean, we often talk about the C word, but we ignore a lot of the things that happen as a result of it.
Yeah.
When we look at, Samara's like C word. I don't, you can call it, some people call it COVID. Some people call it Corona. Either way, I call it over. At this point, really, it's beyond that, right? The teenage suicide rate is at an unbelievable number. The challenges in educating our kids, the lack of equality is schools used to be a level playing field. Mm-hmm. And when schools went completely virtual, it eliminated that level playing field for so many students, and people are set back. Yes. That's just a fact. And for a lot of parents who can't afford to, be able to spend time with their kids and educate them, because they've got to work 2-3 jobs, because they've had to do different things than ever before. It's created a lot of different challenges. And primary of those is if you've got a global team, well, I've got a team in India. India's been battered.
Yeah.
I worry about our team in India day in and day out.
Yeah.
They are top of mind every single day. They're the last thing I think about before I go to sleep, and the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning. Mm-hmm. Is because they don't have the advantages that we have in America, living in our country, right? And having an infrastructure. They don't have that. That doesn't exist for them. And to me, that's been one of the kind of big takeaways from this is, how do we get those team members involved, and how do we support them? And Laura, you said you guys were sending care packages when we were talking last week, and leadership has shown And I can tell right now, this is the next group of leaders that are really going to lead our industry right here. And I think people listening or watching are going to really kind of see the balance in leadership that's required beyond the practical know-how of security. Because oftentimes people focus on security as being an IT function or a network function or an architecture function or engineering function. But I mean, one thing I think we can all agree on is it's only human to err, and security is full of errors and it's full of challenges, and we're not, there's no perfection in security. Security is the exact opposite of perfection. It is imperfection, and it's how do we deal with our imperfections. And to me, security is almost like being human, and Samara articulated it very well. I've been in therapy since I left the military. That's been now 2004, 2021, due to math. I think we work on ourselves every single day as humans, and we work on security programs the same way we work on ourselves every single day. We try to make ourselves a little bit better, we try to make our security programs a little bit better. And you guys just showed that. And I'm humbled. Thank you, sincerely, for your openness, for your willingness to share and just put yourself out there. I think that so many times people on social media and other platforms try to make it seem like I'm all hunky-dory and rosy. And you know what? Whenever I see someone in security go, I just had a great day, we stopped 1 million attacks. And I'm like, and you've also missed about 100,000. So I'm glad you're looking at the glass half full. But, it's to me, it's just, it's the humanity of our job that is oftentimes overlooked. And it's part of what we need to be, because we're humans that operate security, not machines. To the contrary of every vendor out there.
But I've got machine learning.
Yeah, I know. You and I've had this discussion. I've got I want to. We've got another minute left, and I'm going to ask you each to give me one word answer. I've got a buzzword graveyard. What are you burying in my buzzword graveyard? Who wants to start?
Crown jewels.
It's
out the gate.
That word. It's a good word, okay?
Lori?
Crown jewels.
Ooh, I'll pass. I got to think about this.
So Jana, Samara?
Oh boy, there's so many when we think about like buzzword, like the bingo. I think zero trust is getting overused a little bit these days.
Yeah. Shoot. That was good people.
Yes, thank you. Samara or Lori, you got to give me a buzzword. You'd bury in my graveyard. Zero trust is buried many times.
Kill chain?
Oh, okay. Okay. Old school marketing people overuse that.
I'm at a loss. I love all the words. I don't want to get rid of it.
So would you use so Lori, let me ask you this. Would you consider AI and ML to be a buzzword?
I mean, it's real stuff. So no, I don't think so. Can't get rid of that.
Automation.
Maybe that very broad automation without specifying what it is. That makes more sense to me. Like, what kind of automation are you talking about? Or what kind of AI and ML? Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. Brilliant. Ladies, I want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on the program. You are all absolutely amazing. Lori, thank you for helping put this together and really showcasing your team, because that's what true leadership is. We as CISOs don't do it on our own. We do it with our team. And without our teams, we're just a bunch of people with a title.
Thank you,
Thanks
James.
for having us.
It's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, folks, that's it for this episode. Make sure to subscribe. Stay tuned. Next week, a lot more content. It's going to be hard to top this one, so people are going to have to really try. But that's that. Cheers. Thanks so much for tuning in, folks. Have a great rest of your day, night, evening, whenever you're watching or listening to this. I don't know with podcasts anymore, right? Like someone could be listening to this while like laying on a beach somewhere on vacation. And if you are, and this is what you're doing on vacation, one, I'm humbled. Number two, you need therapy. Have a great rest of the day, folks. Cheers.
Make sure to subscribe to our podcast and share it with your friends and colleagues. And get all the latest information at cyberhubpodcast.com.